Session is being recorded. So welcome everyone to the Python for Beginners program. Today we are going to discuss some fundamentals about Python. Okay, what is Python? Where can we use Python? Okay, and how it can help us write some solutions. We will also discuss various fundamentals related to Python, some terminology that you may come across when we talk about Python as a language or something related in this field of data science and others. So some terminologies you will be coming across during this program. Okay. And when you go for an interview or when you are really working in the real life problems you are trying to solve, so you will be in a position to discuss and understand those concepts. So you should not feel awkward when somebody is talking to you. Hey, anaconda. Okay, what is anaconda about, right? You should. Somebody is talking to you about uh, some PyCharm. Somebody is talking to you about Visual Studio Code. So we will discuss these different terminologies which are used in the Python world. Okay, mostly in the development. Okay, we will also learn about some tools like Git or GitHub, right, that we use for version control. Okay, we will be learning about connectivity with MySQL and Postgres during this program. Okay, but our today's session is going to be focused on fundamentals of Python. Okay, so the Py- Python is a programming language which was uh, developed in 1991 by Mr. Guido van Rossum. Okay, he was the author of this language, and as I told you, there are multiple programming languages. There is a very popular programming language known as C and C++. So, in fact, entire Python was written in C. Okay, the idea behind building Python was that this language should be scalable. Okay, when we say scalable, so every programming language comes with certain functionality. Some core functionalities are always available, and then there used to be programming languages which were controlled by their developer groups. They could only extend the language. If a new feature was supposed to be introduced in language, that could be introduced only by the developer group of that language. Okay, but Mr. Rossum, he didn't like that idea. Okay, because many times we want to scale and we want to program certain things, and those we feel limited because until that original developer group or the company which built that language, they don't decide to introduce a feature, we will not be able to extend our programming language and use the new and enhanced features over there. So what Mr. Rossum came up with, he came up with an idea of a language which is extensible. This language can be extended by writing modules. So anybody, even you have the source code for Python available. Okay, so if you guys, not right now, but maybe in future, at some point you feel, oh, Python is missing a library and you want to introduce a new library in Python. So you have the source code for Python available. You have, you can write your own module and you can extend that language as a new library. So Python comes up with multiple libraries which are already available for doing different kind of work. Okay, this language is a general purpose language. General purpose means you can apply this programming language for writing any kind of programs. Okay, in the initial days when the programming was started, okay, so there were different programming languages introduced like GW Basic, Fortran, COBOL. So like Fortran was mostly into scientific operations. Okay, so Fortran was known as the scientific language. Okay, many professors, students, okay, research associates, they used to use that language. COBOL came up for the business purposes, business solutions, right? So it used to be a language at some time, COBOL, okay, common business oriented language. Then there came up multiple languages on the way. C++, of course, was there. Visual Basic is there, okay. Java is there. So multiple such languages were introduced in the market for different purposes. But when we say general purpose, means this programming language can be used not for just the scientific purpose. It can be used for writing any kind of applications you want. You can use it for creating a website. You can use it for creating the APIs for connectivity between two applications. You can use it for writing some libraries for doing complex computations, okay, that we are using these days in the field of data science, okay, and machine learning or artificial intelligence. I hope all of you understand the terminology that I'm using, like artificial intelligence. At least you might have heard of them. How many of you have heard of it? Can you please give me a thumbs up if you know about the terms that we are discussing so far? Are you with me? Give me a thumbs up, please. Great. Apur, Gauri. All right, great. So many of you are aware of this. Means you don't have to be master of these terms right now. Okay, right now we are just getting started with our journey to programming. But at least from the terms perspective, if you find out I'm using something which is not, you are not familiar with, raise your hand and I will try to take up your query. Okay. So what we are talking about is like Python. Python is general purpose language, and we have mentioned it is a high level. Would anyone of you like to explain me what is a high level programming language? I'm going to unmute your microphones. You can unmute yourself, and anybody wants to take this opportunity to explain me what is a high level language. Any one of you? Okay, so let me explain you. So there are two types of languages. One is the high level language, one is the low level language. Okay, so when we say low level language, initially programming used to be done in the form of zeros and ones, binary. You understand that computers know only the binary number system. Okay, there is a signal which is flowing through your computer, and this signal is either there or it is not there. So either it is high or it is zero, it is one or it is zero. Okay, either the current is flowing in a circuit or current is not flowing in a circuit, right? So when the current is flowing, we say it is one. Okay, and when the current is not flowing, we say it is zero. Okay, so kind of a switch is there, on off, on off, on off, and multiple such 0 and 1 combinations are used to represent each and everything. So in the initial days, if you go back to 60s, 70s, okay, programming used to be done through very low level, at the low level, right? Low level means in the forms of zeros and ones. Just to write a very simple program, if you had to do 4 plus 5, okay, and you had to compute the sum of two numbers, just to write this, you had to do at very low level the programming, and this programming was done in the form of assembly language. Okay, some of you might have been knowing about this term, assembly. So basically there used to be some very complex. In simple terms, you can say it was not easy writing a small program, very simple program, to sum up two numbers or to multiply them. It used to be multiple lines of code, and it used to be done at the CPUs and register level, basically. Okay, and there used to be a program called assembler. Okay, so programming was not that easy as you see it today. So those languages used to be called low level language. Then came up the era of high level languages. Okay, and GW Basic was one such language, which was the one of the initial high level languages, and prior to that some other languages were there as well. Okay, so these languages provided some English like syntax to write the code. Okay, and this English-like syntax that was available to engineers, to the scientists, to the programmers. Okay, that time programming, if you talk about 30-40 years ago, programming was not so common. Means computers were not even so common. Today you are having computers in every home, but 30-40 years ago these were only in the very large institutions, very large, not even in every school or college. These used to be only at the university level. Okay, some research institutions, government institutions, and this used to be a very large size of computer that used to take almost a complete room size. Okay, so, and the programming that was done that those days was the low level programming. Then there came the era of high level languages. High level languages are any programming languages which you can read and write in English. Okay, plain English. So now Python is one such high level language. Okay, and we have also mentioned it is an interpreted language. What is an interpreted language? Interpreted languages are that you write a command and then you can execute it immediately. Okay, and these scripts are executed statement by statement, right? So you have like 100 lines of code in the program. So you will start from line 1. Line 1 is interpreted. Your application will not see what is written at the 100th line. It will see what is written at the first line. It executes first line, then it goes to the second line. It executes second line, then it goes to the third line. Okay, and if it cannot interpret it, if it cannot execute it, it will fail there. Okay, so interpreted languages, you don't know what is written at the 100th or 1000th line in the program. You go line by line in the program, and then that's why these are called interpreted languages. On the other side, we have something known as compiled languages. Compiled languages like C, Pascal, okay, Delphi. These used to be, different languages which are compiled languages, in which Java, in fact, right? So you generate some code, you generate a binary code out of the high level, you write the program in the high level language, and then high level language code you will compile into a binary language, because computer can only understand the binary language. Okay, so the entire code, if it is 100 line or 1000 line or 10,000 lines of code, the entire code is compiled. It is checked if there is any error or not, and then finally a machine understandable code, or which is known as the binary code, is generated out of it, and then that is available to you as a program. So like if you are on Windows computers, so you might know that there are some files with the extension .exe, which are the executable files in Windows. How many of how many of you are aware of the .executable files? Give me a thumbs up, please. Okay. So, Angel, would you understand what is an executable program? Okay, good. Gauri, nice. Apurv, I hope you are familiar what is an executable program. So executable programs are the programs which computer can directly understand. Okay, these are already in the binary form. So maybe written in any language, whatever language you write the code in, ultimately your computer understands it in binary. Okay, so when we talk about interpreted languages are written in high level. Your interpreter of that language is going to interpret it, translate it into binary, and execute it. Then it reads the second line of code, then it interprets it, okay, converts it into binary and executes it. And that way, interpreted language codes run. Okay, and we will see an example in just a short while. Okay, then comes the it emphasizes the Python as a language. It emphasizes code readability and simplicity, because as I told you, it is more English like language. Okay, So you don't write any very complex code. So if you are writing something, you want to print something, so you will simply say print so and so, print Zen Academy, for example. So you are simply writing print Zen Academy. It is easily understandable in English. Now, ultimately, computer does not know this print Zen Academy. The Python interpreter is going to convert it, is going to interpret it into binary. It is going to read that high level language. It is going to translate it into binary, and then this code is executed, and you get the results, whatever the commands you have given. If you have written, I want, let's say, you want to do a sum of two numbers, number one, let's say 100 and 200. So then the sum of these two numbers will be given to you as 300. That will be the outcome of the result. So that will be done internally, binary computations, but you are writing the commands in high level or plain English language. And it is widely being used. As I told you, Python can be used for multiple purposes. It can be used for web development. It can be used for data science. It can be used for automations. Okay. So there are multiple uses of the Python, and we will be learning here some basic programming using Python. We will try to solve some mathematical problems. We will try to solve some real life problems during this program. Okay. And towards end of this program, we will be having a goal to create a complete end-to-end program so that you guys understand how the real world problems are solved. Okay. Any questions on this slide? Anyone? If no, then you may give a thumbs up, please. Miss Sarita, can you, are you getting? Mr. Abhinav? I'll take it as a yes. So let's move to the next screen. So we now next question comes, why Python? Okay, means why not some other programming languages? Okay, today Python is being used in multiple fields. Okay, and as all of us know, today is the age of generative AI, artificial intelligence. Okay, we are talking about machine learning, where machines are learning from the programs themselves and generating new code. It is self-learning by itself. It is learning from the data. It is learning from the events which are happening around. So you guys might know about chat gpt kind of solution. So in chat gpt, you write something, it quickly gives you a solution, okay, or the answer for what you want. Okay, so how it is doing, it is working on very large data sets, and then it is generating the outcome very quickly, and that is being possible through languages like Python only. Okay, Python is very powerful language when it comes to handling the complex computations. Okay, and anything more and more we get into the world of programming, more and more we become advanced. So our calculations get complex and complex and complex. Like recently we sent our like moon orbiter, and we sent we landed on the Mars also, right? So when you are sending, the very accurate calculations to the very highest precision are required, and that's where the languages which are scientifically driven, right, which are made for scientific computations purposes, these may be very helpful in writing such complex computations and with the highest precision. So, and Python is very easy to learn and use. with a very simple syntax. As I told you earlier, also it's a more like a English like language, and we will see some examples in a few minutes. Okay, it's a versatile language. Versatile means you can use it anywhere. You can use it for web development, you can use it for data science, and you can use for many more possibilities, like writing the APIs for your application, integrating with other applications. It is There is a very large and supportive community. As I told you, this language started in 1991. So since 1991, you can understand it's uh, a very long period, almost like 35 years. Okay, it's gonna be. So many people worldwide are using this language. So if you have a problem with Python, you go to Google or some other search engine and you search, find out a solution for a problem, then there are more chances you are going to get a response sooner on a community. Or maybe the problem that you are facing was faced by somebody else in the past, and that way you will be easily able to locate a solution to your problem or to the error that you are getting. You can quickly solve it. So that community support is also very, very essential when we choose which language we should adopt. So Python is one such language which is highly used across the world and in for multiple kind of applications, and hence finding the support for Python becomes very, very easy. And these days, even in the schools at 6th and 7th grade itself, Python is being taught. Okay, earlier it used to be at 12th grade or even higher, but now more and more advancements in programming are happening. These advanced languages are being taken to the lower grades. So now 6th and 7th grade students even are learning Python as a programming. So by the time they reach 12th or graduation level, they become very, very advanced and pretty much masters of these languages. Okay. There are many libraries and frameworks available. So what happens if I told you, like, we have to do different applications, we can build different applications using these languages. Okay, now you have to do some very complex calculations. Let's say you have to work on matrices. Okay, how many of you know about matrices? Maybe some of you are not aware. Okay, so matrix is an arrangement of numbers in rows and columns. Okay, so when we are doing some very complex mathematical problems solution, then it becomes difficult to write a program in a language like C or C++. You may be writing several hundred lines of code to solve that problem. But if we are working with a language like Python, it may be just like a few lines of code. Okay, you can, within a few lines, you can solve the problems, very complex problems. You have to do the square root, you have to take, do the large computations, you have to do some statistical problem solving. All those libraries are available. You simply import. I told you earlier, Python is an extensible language, so it can be extended by using different libraries or modules, right? So some libraries worldwide are created by different scientists, different professors, okay, different computer engineers. So they have created different libraries in different fields. Now you want to build an application, so you don't have to write that code from scratch. You simply find out that library for that purpose. And suppose you have to solve the statistical problems, so you take the library which supports statistics. Okay, and simply start using its functions. If you want to work in the field of artificial intelligence or generative AI, you can use the respective library and can start building the program. Okay, so you don't have to do all that hard work which somebody else has already done. Okay, so that many libraries and frameworks are available over here for the rapid development. Rapid development means you want to build something, you want to build a website, you can simply take certain libraries, put them together, and get the solution rolled out in a few hours or few days. Okay, that is known as rapid development. Cross platform Cross-platform means some of you might be using Macintosh, some of you might be using Windows, some might be on Linux operating system. So there are multiple operating systems. So there used to be days when your programs could work only on Windows or only on Linux or only on Mac OS. But these days, this cross-platform support is very, very essential. So Python is a programming language that you can use, that you can run either on Windows or Mac OS or Linux. So you write on any platform, the code is portable. You can take the code to the next platform and you will be very easily able to execute it on the uh, different platform. Suppose you are having a Windows system at home and you are writing a program in Windows. Now another friend of yours is using Linux. Let's say he is having Ubuntu. So you don't have to worry, oh, my code may not work over there. Okay. So you can easily transfer that code to your friend, share with your friend, and your friend, even if he is having Linux or Macintosh operating system, they will be able to easily execute. And we call this interoperability or cross-platform support. Any questions on this slide, please? Please raise your hands if any questions. Something you are not clear, any terminology. It is very important that you get it clarified here, because as we move along, right, we will be moving to the new slides. You will be getting more and more content. And if something is not clear, that will become difficult for you to catch up later on. You have the question and answer section also. If there are any queries, please feel free to ask. So shall I take, there are no questions? If no questions, please give me a thumbs up. We'll move to the next slide. Okay, great. So let's go to the next slide. Next comes like the essential development tools. So we have multiple means when we are working on a programming language, so it requires multiple tools in order to deliver your solution. Okay, to do the programming, while Python is essential, you need first of all a Python interpreter. Okay, this is very, very important. Python interpreter, right? This is important. Okay, so you can download, we will go to the next slide and we will see how we can download Python interpreter. But you need a Python interpreter, first of all, to run the language, but in order to write the program, okay, Python interpreter will be doing the interpretation of whatever the script you have written. Before you can interpret something, you need to write that script. And to write that script, you need the text editor. Okay, a text editor is, it can be Notepad. How many of you know about Notepad in Windows? Give me a thumbs up. You know Notepad. So ideally, to write Python program, you don't need anything more than a Notepad. Okay. If you have been using Ubuntu or Linux operating system, or you are working on Mac OS, then you can use Vim editor. Okay, Vim. Okay, or we also popularly call it VI editor sometimes. Okay, you can use that. You can use Nano in order to create it. You can use Sublime Text, any editor which creates a plain text file that is good enough for you to write your Python program. You don't need a very fancy tool, but there are something called IDEs. Okay, integrated development environment. These IDEs provide you a platform to easily build and debug your code. What is debugging? Would somebody like to explain me what is debugging?
Sir, can you repeat this line again?
Okay, the integrated development environments are tools that help you write programs easily, faster, and to debug your code, to execute and debug your code. So I want to understand what is debugging. Anybody wants to answer?
So we can execute one by one. If any error, then it will show us.
Correct, correct. You are right. So when we write the program, so it is not always, perfect in the first go. When we write the programs sometimes have errors. We might make mistakes, right? We might miss some, we may do some misspellings, we may use some wrong syntax, we might have missed the comma, we may have missed the parenthesis or braces or whatever, right? So when we execute the program, then we find the errors. And in order to find out where those errors are, these tools become very handy, because uh, when the Python interpreter runs, as I told you, interpreted languages have one disadvantage too. And that disadvantage is, if it is a large program and you are executing it, then you get to know about the error. Let's say error, it's a 100-line program. All the rest of the 99 lines are okay, but in line number 98, suppose you missed something, you missed a comma, you put an extra comma or maybe lesser comma, or maybe you forgot to close some string, literal double quote, okay, you will not get to know that there is an error on the 98th line unless the first 97 lines are executed. Now, you have executed up to 97th line, and then you go to the 98th line and you see, oh, it throws an error. Okay. Now, you have to break the program, and then you have to fix the error and then again execute the same program. So what debugging tools help us is, debugging tools you can set the breakpoint. If you know, okay, I'm getting an error on 97th line, and let's say it's a 1,000-line program. So you can set a breakpoint on 97th line, and then you can keep on executing the code further, step by step, in order to test the remaining steps if they are going well. Sometimes we don't get the same result as expected. Means we have written a script and we are not getting the results as expected. So what we do is we keep on executing step by step. We try to find out what is causing the issue, where I'm making the logical error. Okay. So those errors identification and fixing process is known as debugging. And that's where the IDEs, okay, integrated development environment, okay, there are some such IDEs we will discuss in a few minutes, like PyCharm and Visual Studio Code, which help you to perform these operations very efficiently. And there are community editions of these available to you, so which you can install and use for development of Python codes. You definitely need the Python interpreter. Okay, as I told you, Python interpreter is the application which is translating your code. You are writing something like, oh, print Zen Academy, right? Now, this print Zen Academy is to be understood by someone and converted into binary language, which is or machine language, which is understood by computers. So that will be done by Python interpreter. There is something known as package manager. I told you earlier in the previous slide that Python is an extensible language and there are multiple libraries and multiple modules that you can use over here. So pip is something known as a package manager. Okay. So we require a package manager in order to manage these libraries. So if you are missing some library, you want to install a library. So package manager makes it easy to find, download, and install the library for you on your computer. So if suppose you are working on numbers, let's say some numerical data you are having, and there is a library called NumPy, for example. So you can import that library and you can execute simple using the pip. You can install pip install NumPy, and then your library can be installed automatically. It will find out on the internet where the library exists with that name. It will download that. If you want to do something with the statistical data, if you want to do something with the text libraries, so there are multiple such libraries. You can find out those libraries. you find out those libraries, and then you can you know install them very easily with the help of the package manager. There is a virtual environment, something. Now you might be working on multiple projects. Okay, uh, one of the project requires certain set of libraries, another project requires another set of libraries. So there is a feature known as virtual environment. Different programs don't have a conflict with each other if you are working on two or more projects together. Usually in the professional environment, once you are working in a company, so companies are working on multiple projects simultaneously, right? So one team might be working on one project and another team might be working on another project, and maybe sometimes the same team members might be involved in multiple different projects. So there comes virtual environments. Okay, what a virtual environment does, a virtual environment will provide you one set of libraries for one project. So for each project you can create one virtual environment, and whenever you are working on that project, so you switch to that virtual environment and you can start working on that. So let's say I have a virtual environment for project 1 and I have a virtual environment for project 2. One project, let's say, requires packages related to statistics, another one requires, let's say, for artificial intelligence. Okay, so where I am working on artificial intelligence, I will switch to the artificial intelligence environment and I will start working there with those set of libraries. And when I'm working on statistical modeling, okay, then I can switch to the statistical virtual environment, and then there I can do my work related to statistics. Okay, and the last thing that we may require for development, some of these things are optional over here, but definitely handy. So like version control system is not something mandatory you must have, but it is very helpful when you work in a team environment. Mostly once you go in a professional environment, some of you are in this student category right now, but few years down the line you'll be working in the professional environment, or maybe even now if you are working with a group of friends on a project, you have some idea and you are working together on solving a problem. Now let's say Angel has written some code and she's working with Prachi, and Prachi is writing some code. Okay, now both of you can share the code with each other, right? And the other person can easily get the updates what the uh, other person has done. Okay, so you do something, we store the code in a centralized repository, and that is known as a version control system, and one such system is called Git. Okay, we have some other systems like Git,
GitHub.
we have SVN. Okay, subversion control. Okay, but Git is very popular, and as Prachi told, GitHub. So GitHub is something, a centralized repository, which is open source. So
Yes,
there,
sir.
so you can simply go there, and it's a web-based platform where you can create a Git repository and keep your code over there and share with others. Okay,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But Git is a private.
you can do, there are private repositories. So in GitHub there are, you have to be careful what code you want to
Yes.
keep in GitHub and what you don't want, and where you are keeping.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Git, we have like mm, a public repository, kind of the free version you can share with anyone. Okay, and if
Yes.
you are working in a corporate, if you are working in a company and you have some proprietary code, proprietary means something you don't want to share with some other people, other
Yes.
companies publicly, then you can have the enterprise version of Git, and that way you can keep your code private repositories. I hope we discussed a lot of things on this slide. Anything which is not clear out of these 4 or 5 items? Anyone wants to ask questions? Apur, would you explain me what is package manager? Apur, hello, are you there, Apur?
So some predefined modules are there in Python software that we can use easily by pip install. Like if we want to install NumPy or Matplotlib, Seaborn or Pandas, so we can use that. Many
So
more
basically, any libraries, if we want to install on
import in
from
our
our project,
Python.
we can easily do using the package manager, which is pip here. Okay.
Yes.
So we have discussed here five key components that can be very handy in the Python development. One is any text editor or IDE. We need a Python interpreter. We need a package manager. We need virtual environments. Okay. And we can use version control system like Git that will help us to uh, maintain the source code and share it with others in our team. All right,
Yes.
so let's go on further. So we just talked about IDE. Okay, so what are these IDEs? So one such IDE is very popularly used in Python world is called PyCharm. Okay, how many of you have heard about PyCharm in the past? Please raise your hands or maybe thumbs up.
So no idea.
No idea.
Python.
So PyCharm you don't know, no issues. So PyCharm is just like Notepad, right? Notepad is a plain text editor. I told you IDE, it means integrated development environment. So it is built, these tools, IDEs help you to write, debug, and do the project management of your applications, execute the code, debug the code, to integrate these are integrated with the version control system. So if you want to send the code to Git and pull the code from Git, all that version control connectivities are there. So all those things are available in an IDE, and PyCharm is one such IDE available to you. Again, there is a always, most of these programs are in community version and the enterprise version. So you can use the community version as you're a student and you don't have money to pay for the paid version or licensed versions of these software, so you can use the community edition. And these days even another IDE is there, which is called Visual Studio Code. So PyCharm and Visual Studio Code are very, very popular. Okay, we will be using Visual Studio Code most of the time in our development. Okay, it is also a, like, these support multiple languages. It is not specific to like Visual Studio Code. You can use Node.js code also. You can write over there. You can write Java code there. You can write Python code over there. So these IDEs are built in such a fashion that you can extend them. You can install certain plugins for that language and it is ready to work for that language. Okay, so something similar is for PyCharm and Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is free open source code editor developed by Microsoft. Okay, but it is cross platform. It is not like necessarily for Windows. It runs on Mac, it runs on other platforms too. It offers intelligent code completion, debugging. You are writing something, let's say you are writing print, you have written P and R, and it will automatically detect like, oh, you are trying to write print maybe, right? So it will suggest you, give some suggestions. So you simply press enter and then your code is completed. So that way your code writing becomes faster. Okay, you don't have to do the complete writing. Sometimes you are writing a loop or some syntax you are trying to write, so it can suggest you the syntax and you can keep on writing the code efficiently and faster, and in less time you complete your programming. Okay, it offers customizable with a wide range of extensions and themes, as I told you. So you can keep on adding the new extensions over here and you can have new features available to you. And if you don't like certain features, you can turn them off, uninstall the extensions, and those features go away. Okay, these are lightweight, very small source code. These are okay, and these are fast and ideal for beginners and experienced developers alike. So means it's not like, oh, it's only for beginners or advanced users. Even if you are a beginner or you are an advanced user, these tools, either Visual Studio Code or PyCharm, you can use, and with some initial configuration you will be ready to go and do your development for Python over there. Any questions on these two IDEs that we have discussed? Anything that comes to your mind? Everyone is good? Please give me a thumbs up if
सर थोड़ा क्लियर नहीं हुआ था कॉन्सेप्ट.
पूरा clear नहीं हुआ है. Okay.
यस सर.
So IDE is integrated development environment. So when
Yes,
we do
sir.
the programming, so I told you one way is like we can simply write the program in the notepad and then execute it using the Python
ठीक है. ओके
interpreter. Okay.
यस सर.
But in that case, you have to do the complete programming, right? And then
Yes, sir.
if you have the error, finding error, debugging, and all those things will be little bit.
Yes, sir.
You can still do that, but it may take little more time.
Yes, sir.
However, if you have an IDE can make your life easier. It can make your life
Okay.
simpler, right? So
Okay. It will work fast.
it will work fast in the sense it will help you to give you some suggestions. It will give you help you in completing the source code, right? You are writing something.
Okay.
It can give you some tips. It can give you suggestions. It can give you help tips. You can hover the mouse somewhere and it can suggest you, okay, like over here I'm hovering and it is giving me some suggestion. Okay, you can turn mute,
Oh,
right? So
yes.
same way, in the source code you will be able to take the cursor somewhere and
Yes, sir.
it will give you some help. Okay, so it will be helpful to do the rapid application development.
Okay, okay. Sir, you are talking about PyCharm. It means like PAP8, like many more libraries in that PyLint or PyFlex that you are saying, na, ki,
Yes,
like we are moving cursor on any line, then it will show the description of that word or that line. So I'll use two tools. So that's why I ask.
right. So yes, so what happens, you will, I'll show you something. Okay, let me share you some code.
Yes.
I'll give you an idea of what is an IDE. Okay, let me uh, switch the sharing. Let me know once my screen is visible to you.
Yes.
So this is basically the Visual Studio Code, for example, right? So now this Visual Studio Code gives me the flexibility to create a new file. Let's say I want to create a file.
So your screen is not showing.
It's not showing.
Yes, sir, not showing.
Okay, hold on. Others, can you see my screen?
No, sir, it is not visible.
Not showing. Okay, let me stop sharing and start again. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
good. So what it is right now, you are seeing the interface of, just a minute. Yeah, so this is your Visual Studio interface. Here, let's say I want to create a file. So now I simply say new, and it is suggesting me what kind of file I want to write. Okay, let's say I want to write a file in Python. Okay, now it is activating the extensions of Python over here, as you notice at the bottom. So now it is preparing the environment for Python. It is using Python 3.1.00 something, right? And here I'll be writing something, let's say
It's 8 o'clock.
let me open some code over here. I'll show you. So suppose now see, I'm writing something here. So let's say I'm writing import. So now it is giving me some suggestions. I have written I and M. Now it is telling me what could be the possibilities with I and M over here, right? So let's say I'm writing import. Okay. Same way, if I want to write something print, PRI. So I have done print, and it is giving me suggestion. Okay, it can be print. Now it is giving me suggestions what I can write over here. I can write some values. So print Zen Academy, suppose, right? And this is a line of code I have written in Python. Okay, and suppose I want to run it. So I'm able to simply click on this button and execute the program. If I would be doing it manually, then ideally I will be writing this command Python, and this command I will be writing on the command line, and then I'll be able to execute this code. Okay, so I write something over here. I'll be simple code I can write, let's say print 4 plus 5, let's say. Okay, so I'm writing a two program. I'm writing print 4 plus 5, and I'm writing print Zen Academy. So now you will see the outcome. I ran it. So it is giving me two outputs. One is 4 plus 5, 9, and Zen Academy, right? So I can write any number of lines over here, and not just print. Print is just like, because you guys are very new, so we are not going into more complex code over here. But during this course, we will learn and we will write more program. So what this interpreter is doing, what this environment is providing me, it is providing me Python interpreter. It is connected to. It is providing me debug console. It is providing me terminal. It is providing me if there is a problem in the code. So let's say I made a mistake. Let's say I forgot to write this parenthesis and I run this. So now this is going to give me an error. Okay, syntax error. Where is the error? It is suggesting me, okay, this is the error somewhere, like it is saying this quote is extra because I have not started here. So that's why it is suggesting me on this line is the error, and I'll be able to quickly look into this, execute it, and run it. So now it has run successfully in 0.13 seconds. So editors will help you. These IDEs, this is an integrated development environment. Okay, and currently I am on Visual Studio Code. All right. So you will be able to get which version of the IDE it is by going to the respective application and then checking your, about Visual Studio Code. If you are on Windows, it may look bit different interface, but this is the Mac OS interface right now that we are looking at. Okay. So I'll just switch back to our presentation without spending more time over here. I hope this has given you some idea of what coding we are talking about, right? I'll start sharing the presentation again. Next comes Git and GitHub. Okay. So as I told you, what Git does is, Git is a version control repository. When we are working in a team environment, let's say हम लोग 8-10 लोग जो भी हम लोग ग्रुप में हैं, and if we all are working on a project, okay, everyone is working on, let's say it's a large project and there are 10, 20, 30 some different files of code we have to write. Now everyone is working on our own piece of code, right? So we will complete our work and we will send it to a repository known as Git repository, right? And from there all other people can check what changes were made and they will be able to pull the code. So we have, Git is a distributed version control system for tracking changes in source code. So we will be able to see what person A has made the changes. If suppose in this group we have Ayush, let's say Ayush made certain changes and Apurv is pulling those changes. So Apurv will be able to see which particular lines of code were written by Ayush. Okay. And when Apurv makes the changes and pushes, then Angel can download the code and check which lines were modified by Ayush, which were modified by Apurv, right? So this way, each other's work we are able to share with the help of Git. And GitHub is nothing. Git is the repository, but GitHub is an online platform. And that online platform is available, makes it easier. You don't have to configure Git on your system or your own servers. You have a cloud-based environment on internet. You simply go create an account on GitHub and you can start creating your repositories over there. And you can start to, commit the code in the Git repository
Yes,
and
sir.
code and sharing it. So
Mhm.
makes it easier to collaborate with others. So ideally, this is the key. Okay, what Git does, Git is providing you, Git is basically allowing you, okay, to collaborate. Okay, collaborate with
With
others.
others.
Key.
With others.
Remember this. So when we're working in a team environment, we will be able to share our work with other people, okay, very easily. And at the same time, if by mistake somebody made a mistake in the code, okay, let's say Angel made some changes and those changes are creating some problem in the code. So it will be very easy to just take out those changes and the previous version of the code we can execute, okay, and uh, we can look into the specific component which Angel was developing and why the errors were there, and then we can fix the errors and then commit it again and then merge it together
Mm.
with the master code. So
Yeah.
that way, when we work in a team environment, when you work alone, then it may not look very useful, but when you're working in the team environment, this is very essential tool that we use GitHub in order to share and collaborate with others and maintain the versions. And especially when you are working in the professional environment, okay, in the professional environment, if you get a chance to work with a company, then there you will definitely find one or the other version control tool will be used. And these days Git is very, very popularly used and commonly used almost everywhere, okay, in all the industries. So we will be right now we are just looking at the introduction of Git, okay. That's why we are not going into the commands of Git. But during the course of the this session, right, with this program, we will be having opportunities to work with Git also, okay. We will commit, we'll pull, we'll push, and we will see how exactly in the reality we are doing the collaboration with the Git platform. Any questions on this? Are we all good? Can we proceed?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So it enables you to track different versions of the code. It provides you backup of the code in case accidental deletions or errors. As I told you, somebody made some mistake, so don't have to worry if your yesterday's code is there. So don't have to worry. Somebody accidentally deleted the code, somebody accidentally modified something. So no need to worry, no need to panic. Simply go retrieve the previous version,
It will make a
working on
copy.
the code again.
Yes, sir.
All right. Can we move on to the next slide? Give me a thumbs up, please. Sure. Okay. Then comes in an application. जब हम किसी भी application में काम करते हैं, तो then in the application we have there are couple of things we have to understand. What is an application? First of all, कोई मुझे बताएगा कि application होता क्या है? जब मैं कह रहा हूँ कि application, we are building application. Give me an example of an application. आपके terms में, Apurv, would you like to explain me what is an application? Angel, you want to answer that? क्या आप लोग कोई एप्लीकेशन यूज करते हैं?
Yes.
Give me an example. Which application? Like what? Application means that solves some problem, okay, some day-to-day problem. For example, all of you use Gmail, right?
Yes, sir.
You use Gmail in order to communicate. So that is solving a problem of sending a communication from one point to another point, right?
2 points.
You are sitting here and you can send somebody an email in just few seconds, right? You write here, you click on send, and email is reached to America, right?
Yes.
America or France or Australia, wherever your recipient is, it can quickly transmit. Same way, you use applications like different commercial applications like Blinkit. So that is an application solving a problem. Okay, solving a problem of somebody needs a product. You go to the mobile app or their website, you select the items that you want, you choose from where you want, and then you place an order. And somebody gets that order, picks up the items, comes to your doorstep and delivers you. So that is another application, right? So Blinkit is an application, right? Same way, you have many such applications, okay, which are providing you one or the other solution. It may be Flipkart, it may be Walmart, it may be Udemy, it may be some other platforms, which are providing you the educational solutions. Some platforms which may be solving the logistic problem. Maybe you want to transport, go from one place to another place, like Ola or Uber. So all these are the applications, right?
Yes.
You download these applications and they help you to solve one or the other problem. Okay.
Yes.
So now, how these applications work? Every application provides one connectivity, one interface where it takes the input from the user. So we call that the front end.
When we register, sir.
Yeah, you register yourself. So something, a way to communicate with your users. आप problem किसके लिए solve कर रहे हैं? For your end users.
End users.
के लिए कर रहे
Yes.
हैं. तो जैसे Blinkit है home buyers के लिए, ठीक है? किसी को भी कोई सामान खरीदना है, so home buyers हो सकते हैं, commercial offices हो सकते हैं, they want some product, and they simply go to the app, they place a requirement, and the other end is ready to serve you in a few minutes. Okay, same way any application you are writing, so some users are there, so those we call the end users. So उनसे इनपुट लेने के लिए हमें चाहिए होता है एक फ्रंट एंड इंटरफेस, ओके, इंटरैक्ट करने के लिए. जैसे आप academy.zensoftware.in पर जाएंगे, so you will be able to pick a course. So now that is also an application for the students or professionals in order to go and select a course and participate in that program, right? Similarly, now what happens once you have given your input, this input need to be stored somewhere, right? So the other person who is whom you are trying to send, let's say you are trying to send an email, or you are trying to place an order, or you are any other communication, you are buying a course, let's say you opted for Python for Beginners program, right? So what happened once you have taken an action, once you have given your choice, these choices are to be stored somewhere so that other people at the other end are able to know what you want. Okay, have you joined Python for Beginners or Python for Advanced program, right? A Python Advanced program. Okay, so depending on your choice of selection, that data, whatever you've chosen, that needs to be stored somewhere, and we store it in a place known as database. Where? We store it in a database. Okay, so databases are there, different databases available. We have MySQL, we have SQL Server, we have Oracle. You might have used different terms. Okay,
Yes.
here we are talking about MySQL. MySQL is an open source. When we say open source, you can say pretty much it is free. Okay, so it can be easily accessed. You have access to its source code also. अगर आप अपना database MySQL को लेकर और आप एक प्राची SQL बनाना चाहते हैं, तो you can easily build it, taking its source code, modifying it, okay, adding some new features to it, and you can make a Prachi SQL out of it, right?
Yes,
So that is the beauty of source, open source. In the open source, you have the source code of these systems available, accessible. If you are technical enough, then you can modify these source codes and build your own versions and release in the market. Okay, and depending on its features, then people may or may not adopt it. Okay, depending on what capabilities you are providing it. So MariaDB is in fact one such thing, which is a variation of MySQL. So some of the shortcomings of MySQL are catered in MariaDB, which is nothing but a MySQL is the base. They have taken MySQL, they have modified it, and they have called it MariaDB, right? And there are many such other database solutions which help you to store your data. And there may be different storage mechanisms, there may be different data optimization techniques used in databases, different data querying techniques being used in these databases. But over here, we are talking about a SQL a database known as MySQL, which is very, very popular open source relational database system. It provides a structured query language. A structured query language means you have a very, again, an English-like language. You want to pull the data out of a system. So suppose I am having the courses in academy.zensoftware.in database. We have multiple students registered, and I want to find out which courses are registered by, let's say, Apurv, right? So I will be able to find out easily which courses Apurv has opted for. I can simply type a query. There is a syntax for this. So something like we will be using select all courses, all from courses where buyer is Apurv. Okay, Apurv का कोई identification होगा, email होगा या कुछ होगा, उसके बेस पर मैं filter कर सकता हूँ, and I can find out which courses Apurv has registered for. Okay, so जब हम database से data retrieve करते हैं, उसको हम बोलते हैं querying the data. Okay, and database को modify करना है, okay, कुछ unwanted data को हटाना है, ठीक है, या कोई नया data create करना है, all this is called managing the data. Okay? Widely used for web applications, data warehousing and e-commerce. Web applications मैंने आपको बहुत सारे एग्जांपल दिए, जैसे आपका ओयो है, Blinkit है, Walmart है, okay, all these are different applications, okay, web applications. Data warehousing, किसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में बहुत सारा डेटा जब इकट्ठा हो जाता है किसी भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, and we store this data in large databases, okay, in a centralized place. अलग अलग डिपार्टमेंट्स का डेटा हो सकता है. अब हम कहें गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का अपना डेटाबेस बहुत बड़ा होगा, okay, there are so many departments working, so many people working, so many employees working. So this, when the data becomes too large, we store it in a data warehouse or a data lake, okay. And e-commerce is something like where people can do the sell and purchase, okay. So online, if you are doing some transactions, that we call e-commerce, okay. And we have a MySQL is again a cross-platform. I told you Python was also cross-platform. So cross-platform means it can work on any of the operating systems, Windows, Mac OS, or Linux, or any other operating systems.
Yes.
Easily execute MySQL database there. You have, it is scalable and capable of handling large data sets efficiently, okay. So means not very large, but yeah, means many production scale applications are today running on MySQL too. So you can and it is a very mature database right now, you can use it. While there are many advanced databases like Oracle and SQL Server, etc., and some organizations trust that due to these are their proprietary algorithms and their support available, but many startups and many organizations which don't have the very large budgets, then they prefer to go with open source databases like MySQL. So MySQL and PostgreSQL are the two databases which we are going to discuss during this course, okay. Of course, top level, we will not go very deep into these databases, but we will, during our towards end of this program, once we write our application, we will see how can we connect to MySQL and how can we connect to Postgres, how can we retrieve the data from the database using Python, how can we write to a database, okay. So we will be doing these use cases during this course, okay. So just like MySQL, Postgres is also another open source database. It is an object relational database management system, okay. It is again using SQL, okay. Some slight differences maybe in the querying mechanism, but it is a SQL. It uses SQL or structured query language for managing and querying data with additional features. It is known for its reliability, data integrity, and robustness, okay. And it supports advanced data types like arrays, JSON, geospatial data. We will discuss some other time what is a geospatial data, not right now maybe. You can just think of something related to data like Google Maps, okay. You have where you have large data sets related to the geo space, okay. So we call it geospatial data, okay. We have extensible and custom functions are available, and of course it's a cross platform. So I hope you have got top level understanding of MySQL and PostgreSQL. We will, as they are going to be covered later on, so I will just move on to the next topics for today's session, okay. And quickly we will I hope you understood MySQL and PostgreSQL to some extent. Give me thumbs up if you are clear and ready to move on to Jupyter. Very good. So let's look at what is Jupyter Notebooks, okay. So Jupyter or Jupyter, whatever you call it, right? So as you feel comfortable. So Jupyter Notebook is something, a web-based notebook kind of. If you are doing some, it's an open source web application for creating and sharing documents with live code. So as I told you, we have IDE, right? So it's more simplified version of IDE. IDE is something that you need to install on your computer system, okay. But a Jupyter notebook is something that you can open on the web. So if I show you something and I say all of you can do this, in fact, after this class, okay, go to colab.google.com or colab.research.google.com, okay, and there you can log in with your Google account simply, and you can create any of yeah, you can go to file and create a new notebook in Drive, okay. And this notebook you will be able to run. So now I have my Python environment ready. Let's say I'm giving it a name, my first Jupyter notebook. Whatever name you want to give, okay. Its extension is .ipynb, okay. And here, as we wrote the code earlier, right? Print, let's say I'm saying,
Excuse me, sir, your Google Colab screen is not visible.
oh, okay, I'm sorry about that. Let me share it again. I hope it is visible now.
Yes, sir.
Do you see print welcome to Zen Academy?
Yes, sir.
So now I'm writing, this is Jupyter notebook I have created over here. I simply went to file and create a new notebook. Okay, nothing much. Okay, I went to colab.google.com or colab.research.google.com, and here you can go to file and new notebook in Drive you can do. So it is going to over here. I am ready to run the program. I have not installed any Python. I have not done anything. It is an environment which is provided to you by Google. Okay, again, so it is providing you a executable code. Okay, you can simply go there and execute this code, and so it is giving welcome to Zen Academy. I want to do more, so I can
Yes, sir.
here and I can
Add,
click on
add code.
code and I can do something else. So let's say I want to do print, okay,
Welcome.
whatever I say, 4 plus 5, let's say 9. Okay, so not the string. I don't want to print the
Yes, sir.
string. I want to, let's say, do the computation, and I can execute it. Simply run this only. So we call them cells in the Jupyter notebook, and here you will be able to easily execute. So अगर आपके सिस्टम में किसी वजह से you don't have space, you are not able to install, आपको विजुअल स्टूडियो कोड कॉन्फ़िगर करने में प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, आपको पाइचार्म कॉन्फ़िगर करने में प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, so you don't need to worry about anything, and you want to play with the Python code. So you can simply write whatever the code you write here. You can simply go here, add new cells in Jupyter notebook. Let's say I'm giving you a small example. Let's say a value A is 78, value B is equal to 56, and I'm doing C equals
A
A
plus B.
plus B or whatever, or maybe multiply. We can, okay, and I'm saying
Print C.
C is equal to whatever, comma,
C.
and C, right? So if I run this particular piece of code, so this is the result. C is equal to 43868. So over here, this entire thing, Jupyter notebook right now, colab.research.google.com, actually you are working on the cloud. So this is something, your code, you're writing a front-end interface here. This code is going back in the cloud. In a cloud server, this is computed and you are being shown the result over here. Okay. So this is not running on your computer. This is running remotely somewhere in the server. And after computation are done, results are being shown back in the Jupyter notebook here. Okay. Is it clear? Making sense?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So let's so this is again like it supports multiple languages, not just Python. It supports R, it supports Julia and other languages too. So you can find out more documentation about it specifically. It is used for data cleaning, transformation, numerical simulation, statistical modeling, data visualization, machine learning, and much more. So many advanced programmers these days, once somebody talks to you, oh, I'm a data scientist, so more chances are the person definitely is working on Jupyter notebooks. Okay, so it is a tool that helps in statistical analysis and visualization very easily because it requires no installation and everything. So most of the time, once you come across someone, okay, data scientist, so you can assume they are using Jupyter Notebook, and you can also use it. It does not require you to be a data scientist to use Jupyter Notebook. Even some very basic Python coding you want to do and play, you can do using Jupyter. Just go to colab.google.com, colab, colab.google.com, and log in with your Google account, and you will be good to go with your, execution, right? So I have just given you already the introduction to Google Colab. So what Google Colab is providing you, it is providing a cloud-based Jupyter notebook environment. Jupyter notebooks you can run locally also on your system. Also, you can download Anaconda on your system, and that provides you Jupyter notebook environment, or you can just configure Jupyter. But it requires very heavy duty, CPU computation for computation and all those things. It requires some heavy duty machine. Okay, so to avoid that, you can simply go to Google Colab environment. Google is providing you a small environment free of cost. Okay, it requires no setup and runs entirely in the cloud, so you don't have to worry about your system being slow, or you are running on a older computer, because your code is running on the cloud. So it is running on the Google servers. You just must be able to open the browser and execute the code. Okay, we will take guys 10 more minutes because this is the first session, and we had a couple of other topics to discuss in between. So we will be extending this session for 10 minutes today to complete our today's agenda. So it supports Python and integrates with Google Drive and Sheets. So whatever the Jupyter notebook I created, that Jupyter notebook is stored in my Google Drive. I can easily find it in my Google Drive. This is being saved in my Google Drive. So later on, if I want to access it, I can go to my Google Drive and access it. Okay. It supports Python and integrates with Google Drive. It offers free GPU and TPU acceleration. These things you will require when you are doing very high-end data processing. Python, as I told you, it is used for data science and analytics and artificial intelligence, machine learning kind of applications too. और उसमें क्या होता है, बहुत ज़्यादा data के हमें GPUs and TPUs we require. Okay, so which that type of configuration is not available on your local computer. So if you run a very large data set analytics on your local system, that may give the results, but may take a longer time. While if it is using GPU and TPU, okay, and you are running it in the cloud, you may get faster results, okay, without putting too much load on your local computer. And it is used for, as mentioned, it is used for machine learning, data analysis, and education purposes. Okay. Any questions about Google Colab? Anybody?
No, sir.
Okay. So let's quickly move on to Anaconda. Anaconda is again a free open source distribution of Python and R for scientific computing. Means right now you can skip this particularly, but just so that you are aware what is Anaconda, you must know it is not a rocket science. It is kind of a Python distribution only. Okay, and it comes up with relevant tools for Python development, Python and R development. Okay, if you have to do, and it includes a Conda package manager. So just like we did pip earlier, we talked about pip. Pip is a package manager. So same way here, Anaconda comes with the Conda package manager. Okay, so using Conda, you can uninstall packages for Python. and essential libraries. It offers a user-friendly environment for data science and machine learning, and cross-platform, and runs on Windows, Macintosh, and Linux. So again, Anaconda is just another distribution of Python with certain different libraries available. Some is specifically for data science and machine learning purpose. The libraries are available in the Anaconda or Conda package manager. To get started with Python, अगर आपको Python अपने system में install करना है, you must go to python.org/downloads. So you go to www.python.org. This is the website for Python. Okay, so you can go to Google and search also, but you can simply remember python.org. From here, you go to downloads, and you can download if you're on Windows. So go to Windows and download a 64-bit or 32-bit installer, depending on what kind of machine you have. So if you have a 64-bit machine, you can download it. Mostly these days machines are 64-bit machines. So you download the 64-bit installer and simply install it. It's very simple. It will download the executable and you can run it. If you are on Mac OS, then you go to Mac and download the relevant package
Linux or Linux.
for Mac OS. And similarly, other platforms are there. So if you want to download, you can do that too. Okay. Some documentation is also available for Python. You can go to documentation and docs, and here you can find out some documentation for Python beginners. Beginners guide is there. You can go here and read some Python tutorials. While it may look a bit complex to you sometimes, okay, so you can go over here and read some of the additional information apart from what we have learned over here. You can go here and explore. Okay, it may look little bit sometimes you don't want to read too much. That's why we are in the course here learning the summary of it. Okay, but the documentation is always handy to you. If you don't find something, if you want to go and want to learn about Python history, go here and you can read about it in more detail. Okay, if something you could not find out, you can go, or you missed during the session, you can go here. You can even run your program, hello world program, just like we did. So it is again running in the cloud and giving you the result over here. Okay, it's a playground.py. So you can go here and look into this documentation. Okay, so familiarize yourself with the Python syntax, variables, data types, etc. over here. Okay, getting started with Python. You must start practicing writing some simple programs, as we did some one-liner or two-liner programs. You may do a little more complex in fewer days. By the next session we have on Wednesday. Okay, you can explore some of these things. You can go to python.org and explore some of these things. You may play around with PyCharm and Visual Studio Code, download the community edition. Okay, enterprise edition may stop working after 15 or 30 days trial. So better you go with the community edition of any of these tools than when you install it. Okay, start practicing writing some simple Python programs and explore some tutorials, books, etc. That you may have access to. Okay, so that you get a better understanding of whatever we are covering here. Some of the things you may be learning, maybe you just missed, or you are not very clear. So you can do some research on those topics so that you get additional information. If you are not clear, feel free to ask questions in your next session. Okay, and we will be having a doubt clearing session on Sundays. Okay, so it will be at the same time. So those of you who have certain doubts and want to get clarifications, so on Sundays we will be having a doubt clearing session for you. If you are writing a program not working or some challenge you are facing, feel free to get it clarified in that session. Okay, there is a slide on installing Python on Windows. So I already told you, you go to python.org/downloads, install the installer, and you will be able to configure it. Install Python on Mac OS, pretty much the same steps. Okay, just go there and choose the relevant build for Mac OS and download and install it. Okay, same way, in order to install it on Ubuntu or Linux operating system, you go there and you can download, okay, using sudo apt-get is a command for Linux. So using this command, you can install. So this slide deck will be available to you on Google Drive. It will be shared to you, the location. You guys can access to it. Okay. And it will be available in your portal also. You can access to, go to academy.zensoftware.in, and there you will be able to access this slide deck. So if you want to refer to any of the slides, if you could not make the notes, or if you were not clear on something, so the recording of this session along with this slide deck will be available for your reference. Okay. Python basic syntax. So Python uses indentation. Okay. So when we write the code, we will be covering some of this in the next session. Okay. We will start from here. Okay. Python syntax, and we will learn how to write better code in the next session. So Python requires indentation of the blocks. Indentation means if something I am writing, so Python defines the code blocks. It does not use any structure like curly braces or something. It simply requires you to indent the code. Indentation is just like this code is indented. Okay. Variables store data values dynamically typed. No need to declare data types. Okay. Data types, numbers. Okay. I think we are running a bit late on this session, so I won't like to rush you on this. We will be covering this in our next session. Few slides are left. Okay. Python basic syntax and data types. Okay. And this is not something like difficult, but yes, I want you to get a grasp of it, and we want to spend some time on this. So we will be covering it in our next session on Wednesday. Okay. So there are a few slides left. We will be covering it in the next class. Okay. And it will be related to coding. So of course, some of the coding we have already seen, like print hello world. Okay. You can do, you can also write like two ways. I told you, like one is you can do the interpreted way. So you can simply write the command and execute it. And another one is we can write it in a file, and that file's extension we can give .py. Okay. So that file, then we can run with the Python interpreter, and the Python interpreter takes the complete program and executes it line by line and gives us the result. Okay. Some of the basic Python commands like print, input, length. So print is used for, here is the example. So print is used for some printing a message. So suppose you want to print hello world or print Zen Academy. So you can put anything in the double quotes and then you can print it. Okay. You can take the input. So you can take like name equals input. What is your name? Okay. So if you want to take the input from the user, then you can use the input function over here. Here we are concatenating two things. So hello string and the value of the name that you entered. So if I have entered here Manoj, then it will be print hello Manoj over here, right? Then the numbers, it's a list basically. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We will be discussing lists in detail in next session. So I will just leave it to you as it is for now. Okay, and during our program, we can write some comments. So any code, any lines in the program, if you begin them with the hash character, then these are treated as comments. Okay, so comments are useful in order to be able to, explain your code to yourself or to others. Okay, so it's always a good commenting practice, right? If you write the proper comments for different sections of the code, so that after a few days or after a few years, when you are coming back to that code, you will be able to understand your own code, and somebody else also can easily understand your code, what is written, what is the purpose of the code. So feel free to write the comments. So you can write the comments using the pound character, this hash sign, or you can use triple quotes. Okay,
Also double quotes.
triple apostrophe or 3 times double quotes. you can enclose within it, and you can write multi-line comments also. Hash is for single line usually, and for multi-line you can use these quotes. Okay. Some assignment for you, of course, you should go through this deck. This will be available to you later tonight, after an hour or so. It will be available on the portal. So you go to academy.zensoftware.in, log in with your account, and you will be able to access on the Python. You can go to my courses, okay, and choose Python for beginners course, and there you will be finding this slide deck. So you can go through it, and by the next session, come prepared with today's learning, your questions, your doubts. Okay, so we will start with, in the first 5-10 minutes we will be spending on your questions, and then we will start from the lists and data sets. Some of the slides we could not cover in detail, these operators, etc., we will discuss in the next session. Okay, keywords, what are the Python keywords, Python variables. Okay, these we will be discussing in the next session. All right, any questions, anybody? So all right, I hope you got something from this session, some fundamentals. This session was very important, and we somewhere covered few additional things in between, jumped on to some uh, detailed interpretation of IDs, etc. But I think that was also very essential for your learning during the upcoming classes. Okay, go to colab.google.com at least and write your first few lines of code in Python and try to play around with them. At least a hello world and a few basic arithmetic computations you can do today. And we will discuss, if you have had any challenges, we will cover in the next session. All right. Thank you, everyone. And we will connect on Wednesday for the next class.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.